Hey, welcome back. So, as you guessed, the title already states, I've been driving my Mazda 3 around for a little while now. And, well, actually not very long, probably about 50 miles. And I started hearing this clank, clank, clunk, clunk, and it sounded kind of high-pitched coming from the rear end. So I went and said, what the hell is wrong with this car? And I think I figured it out, and I'll show you. It looks like I now have a two-piece spring in here. One piece, two piece. So we're gonna order one up real quick, and I didn't want to have to fix this car anytime soon, but it looks like we're gonna have to fix that. So after fighting with the locking lug nut for about 22 minutes, I got the wheel off, and let me show you what the spring looks like. I hope I don't have to drop all the suspension apart, because if you do, you got to be very careful about what parts you take off and what parts you don't. A lot of these suspension systems, they have keys in them, and if you do take them apart, you want to put them back exactly the way they were, and if you don't, you're going to have alignment issues later on after you put it all back together. So then it's going to have to go to the shop anyway for that, because I'm not good enough doing alignment here on home with just by myself, especially with the way this vehicle is. There's just some things I can't do. So there you can see I got a two-piece spring right there. I don't have this thing propped up the best in the world because I'm out of a jack stand. I got Dad's coming down to grab the pressure washer, so I asked him if he'd see if he's got an extra jack stand for me to use. So we're going to be very cautious about getting under the car. Now see, that's one of those keys that I was telling you about, and if you're going to take that apart right there to drop this down, to get the new spring up in there, you got to mark exactly where it was. But I almost wonder if I could take it apart here and get it to drop down further. I might have to take apart the sway bar end links too, right here. Right down here, right there is where the end of the spring butts up against it. And on the top side, it just gets this rubber gasket. And that just, I guess that's just going to wedge in there however it was. Another thing I want to add is that some springs will have a top side and a bottom side. This spring doesn't look like it has either or. It just, you land that where it needs to be in the indentation shown earlier, and you should be fine. So looking back here at your rear suspension, you got one 17mm bolt, and then you got another one, or you got your sway bar end links that we've started taking apart right here. You don't, just want to remind you, don't touch that, otherwise everything's going to be out of alignment. But is what we're going to do, take this bolt out, this whole arm should be able to swing down, we put our new spring in, we put the jack up under it, put our bolt back in, and then put this back together. Your sway bar end link back together. So here we are 3 hours later. We finally got the parts in from the auto parts store, and I'll show you what we got going on up here. So I got my spring right here. I got the rubber insulation up here, or the insulator up here, and then remember, down here is where the spring is indexed on, where this notch right here goes in. Right now I'm really close to getting that spring up in there without having to use the compression tool, which the compression tool grabs the springs, for those that don't know, and it'll decompress it. They're kind of a dangerous tool, and a lot of people have gotten hurt with them before. But I think if I take off the other side, sway bar end link, that'll swing down, and then that'll swing down that way, and it'll let me drop this further down so I can get it in there exactly just how it needs to be. So we're going to pull that side off real quick. So now what I've done is I've put the jack under here. We're going to pick up because it was able to come down far enough to slide the spring into place. You have to use a pry bar to make sure it still aligns itself left and right though. If you can't get the pry bar in there to align it, you can tap on it right about in here with a hammer to help knock it that way. So once you get that bolt ran all the way in and your spring's in place, go ahead and put in your sway bar end links, and I got to get a new one because I had to cut this one, but then that makes this job done. And if you haven't, you can see my other video on how to remove and replace the sway bar end links.